Hello. So this is my thoughts regarding the TPUSA event that occurred on 11/10/2025. Just what I saw. So that was my first event with TPUSA, and I was looking forward to it. It was very exciting to be there to support America, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, and be around, like-minded individuals who just want the best for this country and for other Americans. So we went there, and some interesting things that took place. Um, so I arrived, and I just see a crowd of people, protesters, which I wasn't surprised, and Antifa was there. And I've been seeing Antifa videos for almost like half a decade, just what they do, how they dress, the protests, and all that. um, so it was very interesting to see it live. I'm just a regular dude. I'm not like a journalist, investigative journalist, anything like that. So just like a regular dude who gets to see that go on. I was like, wow. But so I see this crowd of people, and I'm like, oh, let me, pass through Antifa. Let me get to, so I can get to the event, and sign in and whatever I have to do. So I'm cutting through there. No one's saying anything to me. And I get to pretty much the front, and I'm like, uh oh, I'm face to face with the police. They're in their line, they got their batons, and then I look to my left, and this dude is just yelling in my ear, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I need to get out of here. So I get out of there really quick, and I have my AI glasses on, and for some reason they're not recording, and they don't record until I'm out of that um, group of people on the front lines with Antifa. That would have been great footage, I think. But I thought it was very interesting to be, because it was like a regular guy smacked down in the huddle of Antifa while they're yelling their slogans. And I got to see from their point of view what they're seeing. And something hit me. First, I got angry. I was angry at that whole situation because I'm trying to come into this event, right? And they're blocking it. And so in my mind, I'm like, you're blocking me from my First Amendment right, because it is, like they said today at the event, it is freedom of speech, but it's also part of freedom of speech is the freedom to listen to speech. To have the right to listen to people's political opinions, whether you agree or disagree. You can't block somebody from hearing that. So that angered me while I was there in that crowd. I was like, man, but something else hit me. Because these people are just just yelling and very passionate. What they're saying seems to be passionate. And I look at the cops, and they do not care. They do not care. They're just, it doesn't affect them whatsoever. Then I look past the police, and I see TPUSA. I see the people going into the event. I see people laughing, they got their MAGA hats, not caring about what these people are saying or doing. And I immediately wasn't angry anymore. I felt sorry for them. Because they're doing all of this and nobody cares. It's not changing anything. It's not changing one thing whatsoever. And I was just like, wow. And I felt like when I was there, coming from them, I felt like sadness. I felt like they were sad. And that all of this was a lash out because they were sad about something else entirely. I was like, man, that's a little bit depressing. So that's that part. The other part is the inside the event itself, which was great. Something was brought up though regarding the protesters outside. So apparently, now if this is true, I will understand some of Antifa's grievances because this is pretty whack if this is true. And it was brought up multiple times. So apparently, Berkeley canceled some of the tickets for the Antifa or anyone that was opposite of Turning Point. And that's why some of them were mad. Which Berkeley got called out for by Turning Point, by some of the students in the event, by just people in general in the event, because that's that's literally what Charlie Kirk's point was, engaging with people who had an opposite political opinion. And during the Q&A, that was what it was about. It was like, come up if you disagree. That's what it was about. It wasn't come up, and they had people come up who was like, yo, this is great and this and that, but they really wanted engagement from people who didn't agree with Turning Point or everything that Turning Point would say, even from MAGA or conservatives. And there was some great dialogue that took place. But it would have been great too if the people on the opposite side came in. And so I think Schneider and a few others called them out. Matter of fact, called out Berkeley. One student got up and said, hey, the chancellor who was overseeing all of this and blocked these people from attending the event, the chancellor was there. And I don't know if this is, I haven't watched the recap yet, if this was in the recap or not, but Schneider was like, yo, come on stage, defend your position. Why are you blocking these people from having a dialogue with us? So, which, I agree, like, yeah, like, explain yourself. Of course, the chancellor didn't come up there, but I understand if that's, because I didn't agree with that. Like, yeah, I won't come in. But I also understand Berkeley's position. This is just me assuming. Safety. It's only been 2 months since Charlie Kirk's murder, which seems like it's been a year, but it's only been 2 months in the history of Berkeley being a little bit on a radical side at times. They just didn't want to risk anything. So I understand their position. And I can't blame Berkeley because even if I agree like that was whack, the way Antifa and the left conducts their business causes that caution. Because even there, I didn't understand their grievance really, and it was until I got to the event, and it was, you know, it was the turning point. It was the MAGA. It was the conservatives who explained, "Hey, this is whack that these people can't come and have a dialogue." But Antifa or the left that was there didn't even articulate that. I'm there in the crowd, and they were like, "Yeah, you guys are shutting us out this event." It was more like they wanted to shut the whole thing down in general. They didn't even want us to be there. So if you're conducting your business like that, of course people are going to be cautious. The police, they did a great job when I first arrived. Um, and I'll just say this, which I was a little bit surprised that I think I was the only black male there in general. um, Not only at the Antifa part, but the event itself. And so when I arrived, first the police were looking at me a little, which I understand. It's like like because I wasn't wearing anything political specific. I was pretty much politically neutral. Because this was my first event, I wanted to kind of see how it goes down and then maneuver from there. So I didn't want to wear anything that somebody would get provoked by. Especially when I was in the crowd with Antifa. I think if I wore that stuff, it would have been a mini riot. So, so I wanted to be cautious the first time I went, just to know like how it goes. Then once I see how things work, I'll bring my stuff out. So the cops were a little like leery at first, and then get into the event, and later when I come out there, hey, I'm talking to them like, hey, good job and appreciate you. They're like, have a good night. Um, Antifa, like the leftists, didn't really say too much to me, and when I left, they're kind of thinned out by now. We were expecting a lot more people to be waiting for us, but it wasn't that many, and the police really did a good job with their presence, and they separated us. They didn't let us really engage too much with them at times. Like there was a separation, and then there was the private security that Turning Point had, and then they were just pushing it. And then people were telling me that there was a fight that happened. I didn't even know, and I looked it up, and sure enough, and that fight where it started, that is where the crowd. That's why I was in, but I was deeper in, and in that area, yeah, definitely the two sides could cross. Um, but further down, and that's how when I got out of that crowd, I looked and I saw a line of police, and I just headed over there. I was like gonna ask him like, how did I get in here? But then I saw a line forming next to him. I was like, okay. And I get over there and say, hey, this is the line to get into the event. And it's like, yep. So great job on the police. And then I said I was expecting a large crowd when I got out. I got some footage of it. Um, I know with the glasses, you got to be a little bit more stable. That's what I learned looking at the footage. You got to kind of stand still for a little bit to get some proper footage. But this older gentleman was standing on like these bricks, and he's like yelling at me like, "Yeah, go genocide, right? Yeah." Like I was pro genocide or something. I was like, what? What do you? What does this even mean? And then a little bit further, and there's a table, multiple tables with just all like MAGA stuff, and Antifa couldn't do anything about it. So that was a very interesting sight to see. And then this younger gentleman who was at the event, I think I got the footage on that too. I'll post that. But he asked me just how I felt about Charlie Kirk's death, which was very, very interesting. Um, somebody was, getting my perspective on it, and we came to an agreement that it was senseless. It didn't have to be there, and I happen. And I told him this is why I was there, because that just that didn't need to happen. This is America. This is not what we do. Um, and I was kind of it's a little bit emotional. Sorry, a little bit emotional because you got to hear some insight of people who were there, and then how it impacted them, continue, even to this day, and just addressing a lot of conspiracy theories, and you know, they were just seemed like they were genuinely mad about the conspiracy theories coming out there. And some people yelled out some of them, and they got kicked out. And it wasn't because they had them; they just didn't stand in line to present their ideas. Um, and that was the problem, because if you stand in line and present your ideas, you have to defend them. Versus yelling from the peanut gallery, you don't have to defend. Just yell whatever you want. But if it's face to face, then you have to defend that position, and they just, you gotta go. This is how we do things. But it was emotional than talking about Kirk, and then just patriotism that's there, and then just being around people, so many people that just love this country. It was getting to me a little bit. And then talking about Jesus and things like that. I got a little bit of the same feeling I get when I go to church sometimes. When you go to church and it's all like-minded believers there for the most part, and it's just like, wow, that's amazing. Because sometimes you're on an island by yourself. When you're trying to do the right things, and then the world and people kind of make it seem like you're a crazy person for doing the right things. But then you get around like-minded people, and it's a ton of them. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is fine. But like I said, the only thing I was surprised about really is the lack of black males there. But everybody was nice. Um, Everyone treated me nicely. Even outside of the event, a lot of people were talking to me and getting my perspective on things, like that young man I talked about earlier. So I liked it. I want to continue getting involved politically, and just probably getting better at filming these videos and get a better camera and all that. But yeah, all in all, I liked it, and continue on this journey and help continue making America great again. All right, until next time.